Thank you for joining this training session on the Active Learn digital service for exploring science. Taking a look at our agenda, you'll see that the first part of this training will cover the teaching resources available. The second part will cover the homework, practice and support side of the service. There are effectively two parts to the Active Learn digital service. Firstly, the teaching part of the service is a tool exclusively accessed by you as a teacher. It's designed to help you plan and then deliver targeted and interactive lessons. The second part of the service is the homework, practice, and sports content, and this is accessed by both teachers and students. It's designed to help you to set homework building on the lessons you have delivered using the teaching resources. Students will then log in to complete this homework, which will be made up of exercises to support them in consolidating their understanding of the skills they have covered. This makes it a powerful assessment tool which will give you key information about your students' progress, but even more importantly, it's underpinned by a pedagogical approach which supports students as they learn by doing. All the teaching and learning content across the two parts of the service up so you can deliver a coherent teaching and learning experience for your students. The teaching part of the Active Learn digital service is powered by ActiveTeach and is where we provide materials for front of class teaching as well as planning and assessment. You can now access Active Learn and ActiveTeach with just one login. Click How does this affect me to read frequently asked questions about this change. I'm going to log in using a demo Pearson account. I'm now logged in to both ActiveTeach and Active Learn. To view the homework, practice and support content, click the Active Learn button at the top of the page. All the homework courses that your school has bought will be shown here. Returning to ActiveTeach. For exploring science, the teaching content includes the following components: presentation, the front of class teaching components, the teacher and technician planning pack, which provides lesson plans and technician notes for all units, the activity pack, which contains worksheets and health and safety notes for all units, the assessment support pack, which contains formative and summative assessment support for each unit, and the planner. The planner combines all of the content into one and helps you to create your own personalised, ready-to-teach lessons. This is available both here and at the top of the screen using the planner title. Let's look at the front of class teaching content for Year 7. This shows the student book full screen for use on an interactive whiteboard or similar. It also includes extra functionality beyond the print version for use in lessons. It's possible to scroll through the pages using the arrow keys. You can also skip to a specific page. You can quickly navigate to a particular unit or topic using the Contents button. All pages have zoom areas, which you can see are highlighted in grey when you hover over them. By clicking, you can zoom into that particular area of the page to draw students' attention to the content and make it more readable. Pages can be viewed in various formats. The default is a double-page spread, but you can also use single-page fit to height and single-page fit to width. The second of these is also quite useful for zooming in on specific content that you wish to highlight. When you zoom into a question, you can also show or hide the answer. Finally, the service allows you to annotate pages. Annotations can be removed, but if you don't remove them, they will be saved so that you can come back to them. There is also a range of additional content to enable you to deliver engaging and relevant lessons. You'll see that there are a number of small blue icons on the page which don't appear in the printed version. These show where there is an additional piece of content available. This additional content may be an interactive activity for the class to complete, an animation to demonstrate a concept or process, a PowerPoint presentation with objectives, a video for the class to watch, a web link to explore, or a spreadsheet for data work. You may wish to pick and choose the resources that you use in a lesson. And by clicking on Page Resources, you can see all the resources available on this double-page spread. You can filter them by type on the left, and when you find a resource that you like and want to use in a future lesson, you can add it to a playlist. A playlist is a personalized collection of resources which you create. I'll add a couple of resources to my current playlist now using this icon here. Then, by opening the playlist using the icon, I can see all the resources that I have collected. I can reorder, delete, or hide. And when I click on the first of these, I can easily scroll through in the order I've defined for my lesson. This saves me from having to go through the platform to find each resource I need in turn. You can also add your own resources to a playlist by clicking Upload Resource and navigating to the file that you want to add. And you can use the Add Web Link button at the top right too. The playlist I'm using at the moment is my active playlist. You can create as many playlists as you want. To manage your playlist, click the All Playlists button. The playlist I have been working on is indicated by the green Active button. If you want to create a new playlist, just click Add New Playlist, give it a name, and then click Save. You can see that this playlist now has the active label. Whichever playlist is active is the playlist to which you add resources using the Add to Active Playlist button on Pages, Zooms, etc. It's also the playlist you will see when you first open the Playlists area. To make a different playlist active, click Make Active. Click the Edit Playlist pencil button, give your playlist a new name, and then click Save. Click on the playlist to go back into the list of resources to review or edit it. To add related resources to my playlist, I can search across all of my courses from the home screen. Going back to the pages of the active book, another useful feature is that you can link to any resource from another location by extracting a web link for it. You can do this using the arrow icon. You can copy and paste this link, and by clicking on it in the future, as long as you're logged in to the Active Learn digital service, it will quickly take you to that resource. Finally, if your students are using their own devices, you can share discrete bits of content with them using this. Ask them to go to this URL on their tablet, and then ask them to type in this code, which is unique to the specific resource. This will allow them to see or use that resource within the lesson. Also included within the teaching resources of the Active Learn digital service are the Teacher and Technician Planning Pack, the Activity Pack, and the Assessment Support Pack. The Teacher and Technician Planning Pack contains lesson plans for all 3 sciences. These are downloadable by individual units and provide additional support for technicians as well. Answers can be found on the first page. There is also an activity pack, and this contains worksheets for use in lessons for all 3 sciences, navigable by going to the relevant page as shown here at the start. You can download a zip file of editable Word versions of all worksheets for the unit by clicking on the icon at the top right. This saves you downloading and printing time. A single PDF of all worksheets for the relevant unit is also provided here. Finally, the Assessment Support Pack. This contains a variety of materials that can be used as part of formative and summative assessment, including end-of-unit tests. Again, it's possible to download the entirety of the assessment files for the unit in either Word or PDF formats by clicking the icons at the top. Now let's look at the planner. The planner brings together content from across Exploring Science to help you to create your own ready-made, fully supported and engaging lessons. The lesson plans for the entire course, the same as those in the Teacher and Technician Planning Pack, are available here in editable format. In addition, all of the relevant resources from the Activity Pack, the Assessment Pack, and the front of class presentation components are linked to these lesson plans, allowing you to have all of the Exploring Science content at your fingertips. On this main planner page, you can see that there are complete plans for years 7, 8 and 9, differentiated routes, developing, hearing and exceeding, so that you can choose a plan that's most tailored to your students' needs. Let's look at all the content year 7 by clicking here. Here you can see the units contained in the year 7 Exploring Science content, covering all 3 sciences listed down the page. There are associated documents at the top on the right-hand side. Within each unit of the course, there are pre-created topics, each of which is designed here as a lesson for ease. You can see a summary of these lessons for a unit by clicking on the grey drop-down beneath each black unit header. You can access a lesson from here by clicking on it, or go to a summary of all 5 lessons listed in more detail by clicking on the black unit header, which we'll do now for Unit 7A. From this unit page, you can see the lessons summarised, as well as the key documents for the unit on the right. You can click on the grey bar for a quick view of the lesson objectives, or click on a black lesson heading to access the lesson itself, which we'll do now for 7AA. You can see that this lesson is divided up into clear sections, the first being a description of how the student book questions are levelled, then the learning objectives, which are available as a downloadable PowerPoint file, and we then have the lesson sections themselves: starters, exploring, explaining, plenaries, homework, active learn homework, and finally answers and technician notes. Opening up each of these lesson sections, you'll see the description of the tasks are given. The national curriculum level and information about the type of task, i.e. formative assessment, summative assessment or baseline assessment, are included here. This information will be searchable, so you can search, for example, for a task that's level 4. Looking at the top of the lesson plan, you'll see that for each one there is a print button. This is useful for giving you a quick overview of all the content available, or for referring to when delivering a lesson. Note that you can also save to PDF from here. Now let's look at how you can edit these lessons to suit your own requirements. Back in the lesson plan, at the top left, the Copy Lesson to Edit button allows you to create your own copy of the lesson for editing. You can edit the lesson title and description at the top. You can edit objectives, remove them, or add to them. And moving down, you'll see that this editing functionality continues throughout the lesson. You can add individual resources from elsewhere in Exploring Science using the Add button, or upload your own resources using the Upload button. Equally, you can delete activities or resources and reorder content using the arrow keys. You can also add suggested timings. At any point, you can save your editing by clicking Save at the top, print your edited lesson. In addition, you can use the playlist functionality at the top left. This gives you a full list of all the resources in the lesson. It can be a useful way to review the lesson at a glance. It allows you to cycle through all the resources in order of use. Finally, you can share your edited lesson with your colleagues by clicking Share and selecting the relevant member of staff from the list. The members of staff with whom you have shared the lesson get a notification when they next log in at the top right via this envelope icon. The edited lesson will also show up for them under the relevant units of their planner. This concludes our teaching service section of the training. I would like to draw your attention to where you can find further support on the teaching resources. By clicking Help at the top right, you can view and download the help file. You can also leave feedback for us on your experience of the service. And here are our digital support team's contact details if you can't find the information you require. Note that there is some guidance on the details that the digital support team will need to help you most effectively.